Hello and welcome to the Minority Arts Appreciation Society podcast, where we're ticking all the boxes and bringing you a. Okay. Today we're discussing the final two Kanye albums in our Kanye retrospective: Jesus is King, a Christian hip hop / gospel album from Kanye West, and Kids See Ghost. Kids See Ghost being the name of the group that is comprised of Kanye West and Kid Cudi. So today should be a very interesting discussion. We're not going to waste too much time. We're going to jump right into it. And then at the end of the podcast, we're going to kind of summarize our thoughts on Kanye as a whole and rank his discography, including Kids See Ghost. So this week, in Kids See Ghost especially, and to an extent in Jesus King, as an undercurrent that explains the nature of the work, bipolar and depression are, mental health conditions, if you will, which are prevalent in both of these albums. So we wanted to link you guys to a kind of lesser known charity. So Mattie, would you like to?
Yeah. So this charity is called Inside Out UK. It's a charity started by a woman called Vanessa Bocci. After she felt the mainstream mental health charities in the UK don't really affect people who aren't white, particularly Afro-Caribbean. And so I think that's a really positive thing. We're quite skeptical of like these huge charities as people, so it's nice to see something where the core of it is so visible. So we'll have a link to this in the description, and you can donate, you can read their resources, but they seem really good and like their heart's in the right place, so check them out.
Yeah, so if mental health is something that is important to you or something you worry about a lot, then this is a good place where you can feel like you can make a bit of a difference in the world. But yeah, back to the music. So jumping right into it, we're going to start with Jesus is King. I don't really feel like I need to give a lot of backstory to Jesus is King.
It feels so recent.
But of course we may have people listening to this in the future, so I'll say a little bit. Kind of the album that was being hyped up for like 2 years after Life of Pablo was Yandhi. It sort of became the what was the name of that Dr. Dre album that just never came out? Detox. So if any of you over the age of 14, you'll remember that like back in like 2010 to 2015, Detox was like the hip hop album that was like fabled, but never released. And eventually Compton came out. That was a pretty good album. But yeah, we never got Detox. And Yandhi kind of became the new Detox for the second half of the 2010s. And a leak of it came out, which we won't really discuss here. However, the album itself never came out. Instead, Kanye found God. He started doing the Sunday services out in kind of remote places, which got a lot of traction on the internet. And he also put out a film accompanying the album. I'm going to quickly look it up because I can't remember if it shares the name of the album or not.
Mm-hmm.
The film is the same name as the album, Jesus King. I was going to see it, but I heard that Kanye's only in it for like 7 minutes, and it was actually really disappointing.
Wow.
I just left it. It got an IMAX release, which is very strange.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That's so weird.
So yeah, I mean, all of this is pretty dull. What's really interesting here is the actual album. Amazingly, the 9th consecutive album to top the Billboard 200 for Kanye.
That's
Jesus is King was at the top of the Billboard at one point. And yeah, I just want to discuss the album. I think it's a fascinating album. Mattie, is this your first time listening to Jesus King?
It's my first time listening to Jesus King.
Okay. What was your experience like?
It was perplexing. To put it in a word, perplexing. Because like it's the same as many other people where it's really funny that this is what happened. And that this man who made My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is now making Jesus is King. But these thoughts are nothing new. What I found really strange was that a lot of it was just really bland and mediocre. And that's what I found most disappointing, is because I think there's a lot here with this concept. I think if this album was made in the 2000s by 2000s era Kanye, I think it'd be amazing. And there are moments where I think like still the same artist, and you can see that. But this is a very strange era of Kanye where we've spoken about this before, where he's hard to predict, hard to understand, and the quality really fluctuates for me, especially. For other people, not at all. That for other people in this era, he's really like just in his stride. And apart from this album, obviously, and this album is just another extension of that, where it's an addition to the confusion that I still experience to the latter end of Kanye's career. So yeah, I felt very perplexed by this and didn't come away with much, if I'm honest.
Yeah, for me, when this album came out, it really felt like a joke you'd find in a show like, BoJack Horseman or South Park, of like, Kanye West puts out a Christian album, and then it cuts to Kanye like singing gospel and like talking about how swearing is bad and sex is bad. Like it really felt like a joke I could see in South Park. It felt so surreal. But then actually listening to this album, I find it really depressing. Mike Seatown touched on this as well, but this album really feels like a cry for help. It really feels like Kanye has no meaningful support systems in his life, and we've kind of in the past decade we've seen him just constantly turn to big groups kind of to find acceptance. Especially with Yeezus, where we saw him turning to the fashion industry to find some sort of solace and recognition there, and he felt really rejected. And now we see him turning to religion, to faith, to the Christian community, and especially on the track,
is it Follow God?
Follow God. We see Kanye kind of actively talking about. No, it's not Follow God. It's not Follow God. Don't. You ruined my shit.
What?
You ruined my shit, man. Especially on the track Hands On, where we see Kanye actively talking about, what have you been hearing from the Christians? They'll be the first ones to judge me, make it seem like nobody loves me. Like, you really feel the sense that this album is another attempt to kind of scramble to another group for some sort of comfort and be rejected again. And like a moment in this album that's really like anxiety inducing for me for some reason. Like, this is a really stressful album for me to listen to. Is God Is, where Kanye sounds like he's on the verge of crying, and his singing sounds horrible in my opinion on this song. It's not really a nice song to listen to, but it really just feels like someone who's so much in pain, and it's just like, well, there's this line. Oh, did I write it down? I didn't write it down. But I would just say there's those lines about God freeing us from addiction, or freeing Kanye from addiction, and like taking away Kanye's agency, and like, my life is in your hands. The real kind of resignment happening here of his whole persona. Like, I find it really depressing. I don't think it's a good album by any means. I just think it's a deeply worrying album, which may be like even worse than just saying it's a bad album. Like, it just, when I hear this, I don't even want to get on the podcast and make fun of it. I just ask myself, like, I hope Kanye is okay. Like, he just doesn't sound okay here.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I think like, well, Christianity in this very specific regard can be a vice that you can turn to, much like any other substance during depression, or any mental health struggle. And I think that's really scary, because it's just as insidious, and literally the point of the faith is to worship. And if you're worshipping one of the things that is like clearly just a distraction from the ultimate issues in your life, which are very evident at this point in Kanye's life, that's terrifying. You talked about the album's stressfulness, and I really want to iterate that with every hour. Every hour is one of the most bizarre moments in Kanye's discography for me. You have The Life of Pablo starting out with a gorgeous gospel song. And so when he chooses to start a literal gospel centric album with just a pace increased gospel number that is so anxiety inducing, like I laughed at it because it sounds ridiculous, and I was just like, what the fuck is Kanye on? But it also like made me physically anxious. It's really strange.
Yeah, I think one thing interesting to note about how that track is mixed is that it literally starts like in media res. Like it just starts in the middle of a choir singing every hour.
Yeah.
Like there's no, you're just dropped in, and it's like that's instantly a jarring experience, right? Like that is unsettling.
And yeah, I think what that leads me onto is just that musically this album is really lackluster, and it just feels rushed.
Yeah. So yeah, really, it is really a baffling, unsettling experience. So, Matty, what are your favorite tracks, least favorite tracks, and would you recommend Jesus is King?
Okay, so I find Water to be a really nice vibe. Like, I don't know what it is. This is a like unexpected song from this album and from Kanye. I actually think it is genuinely unique. That's for in Kanye's discography. I think the like pitter patter synths throughout it are really soothing and nice, and I think when this album is at its best, it's when it's like showing you the reassuring side of faith. As much as that reassurance is actually troubling in some regards. Close on Sunday is like simultaneously moody and really funny.
Can we please get an F in the chat?
This is a meme, dude.
I'm confused. Is Close on Sunday your favorite? One of your favorite tracks?
Yeah.
Go on then. I respect that decision. What? How did it make you feel? Huh?
It's a perfect exemplar of the contradiction of Kanye's personality at this point, and all of the skepticisms that I had of his personality before I got into his musics are here, and that's really sad. But also, this song's really entertaining, and I really, really enjoy listening to it. For that reason, Seller. I'm gonna end it there. Seller is kind of terrifying, and like kind of when I first went through the album, I prayed that there would be some semblance of grandeur, of because religion and Christianity is a grand thing. It is an a seemingly ancient force. Really, it's not. Really, it's kind of horrible and oppressive and manipulative. But hey, and this song is terrifying. I don't know if I actually like it. But hey, here we are. And finally, I really hate Every Hour. I don't understand what he was going for. It's my least favorite track. I don't think it fits in with the rest of the album. The rest of the album doesn't have this sense of immediacy or urgency to it, and it just sticks out like a sore thumb. And honestly, finally, I wouldn't recommend this because this is such an outlier in his discography. It's not like Graduation, where I wouldn't recommend it as a singular piece of music. But it's still an important moment in Kanye's discography. This is just a strange, concerning moment that to actually listen to is pointless because you already know that there is a lot of troubling stuff happening in Kanye's personal life without listening to this. So no, I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah. I feel quite similar to you. So I also have so I'll go with my favorite and least favorite tracks. I also have Water, which is my favorite track in the album. I think it sounds gorgeous and soothing. It sounds like a water level and like a GameCube platformer.
Yeah.
And yeah, I kind of wish it was just an ambient track with the kind of Aunt Clement's bit drifting through at the beginning, and then Kanye's ad lib, well, right, we're like water. Because his verse is kind of really dull. That Jesus give us blah blah blah, bruises, clean the music. It just sounds like very boomer Christian. So I really hated Kanye's verse here. I would have liked this to be an ambient track. I agree with you. I really like Sealer. I agree that it brings in that awe-inspiring, like, religious fear. I think with religious albums, I really like when they evoke that fevered fear, because that's a deeply biblical feeling, in my opinion.
Yeah, Old Testament shit.
Exactly. It reminds me tonally a lot of like Sufjan Stevens' song Seven Swans. And Sufjan Stevens is an artist who's very unironically Christian, like very genuinely Christian. And he has a song called Seven Swans where he sings, "If you run, he will hunt you because he is the Lord." And it's like, or he will chase you because he is the Lord. Like, it's like, and it's so, you get it. Like, you get the, you really, I feel religious fear in that moment. And it's, I think that's an important part of most religions. There's a set of cosmic horror that comes along with the cosmic kind of comfort. So yeah, but even this has the horrible line: "Everybody wanted Yandi, but Jesus Christ did the laundry." Is the album in a nutshell, but also does feel like a slap in the face.
What if Eve made apple juice?
What if Eve made apple juice? Is that in this? Is that in this song?
No, I think it's Everything We Need. Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, it's in Everything We Need. Yeah. One of my favorite lines of 2019 easily. And then my last favorite track is Follow God. I like this song in a sort of goofy way. I don't like the muffled bass. I think it sounds really sad. I mean, really bad and unsatisfying. However, I do think Kanye's flow sounds really nice and kinetic in this track. I love that in Christ, like that reprises throughout the song. And I love the ending of, his father starts chatting shit, telling him he's not Christ-like, and Kanye responds like, "Ah!"
Yeah, that.
I love shit like that on Kanye albums. My least favorite track has to be On God. I genuinely fucking hate this beat. I think it's so jarring to listen to. I think Kanye's voice sounds terrible. It's kind of faded and muffled, but not in a good way. And here we get the iconic line: "I bleached my hair for every time I could have died," which made me think about Peggy's "Promise I Will Never Go Blonde Like Kanye" from Baby I'm Bleeding. And honestly, this Peggy moment is just really sad. It feels like Kanye is just done now. He was once a visionary rapper, but now we've moved past him. He's just nostalgia now. A lot of this album, like the song, feels dated, out of touch, whack. It's generally depressing to see the once radical Kanye reduced to a boring, Bible-bashing, Trump-supporting billionaire. I have very little interest in gospel trap, and if this is the direction Kanye wants to keep going in, I'm gonna have very little interest in Kanye. So overall, I give this album a not recommend. It's a tragic end to the Kanye retrospective. Hopefully, we'll still be doing this podcast for a few more years, and he can redeem himself, and he can return and say, "Hey, this is the Kanye album we wanted." But this is just pathetic and sad, and I hope he's okay. I hope he finds help. I hope his family listens to him and gives them emotional support that's substantive. But this ain't it. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Wow.
And on a brighter note, are you ready to move on to Kissy Ghost?
Yeah, that's dark. This is Jesus is King is so weirdly dark. Yeah, I'm ready. I need this, man.
So flash back. We're going back in time. It's rewind time. That's hot. That's hot. To 2018. We're back in Wyoming. Kanye's back in isolation, and he's pumping out albums all year. He did one for Pusha T with the Daytona. He did Ye, of course. He did one with Nas, and he did Kissy Ghost, which was kind of a collective project between him and Cudi. So not much context is really needed here. It's Kissy Ghost. Matty, what did you make of Kissy Ghost? Had you heard it before?
No, I came very close to listening to this because it was such a big deal, and so I remember this being like huge. Like this was such a big deal, and there was a lot of discourse around it. Um, to get into what I think. Oh my god, to get into what I think about it. Until today, I just thought this was a really interesting ride, but thematically, I found it like unsatisfying and I didn't get much out of it. Josh, you mentioned something last night. Oh, actually, wait, to edit out the last night. They can't see the strings. Josh, you mentioned something during our Yay review that really stuck with me. Where you talked about the themes in Ghost Town and how and the themes in Ghost Town of embracing the darkness of your mental illness, and finding like strength and joy and power in it, and how these themes are continued in this album. Ever since then, I've seen this with renewed life, and all of today, I've been really excited about it. Um, I I it's probably not up there with my favorite Kanye albums, but this has incredible moments that I cannot wait to talk about. With a couple of missed opportunities, I'll say. But overall, I feel really positive about this.
Yeah, I'm pretty close to how you feel. I think this is a really sonic marvel. I think this album is the best Kanye has sounded since Jesus. I think this is really fantastic. One thing I'm a bit let down on is, as you felt all the days prior to this one, is I do think it's a bit conceptually weak. And I think because they come out with such a strong, like, kitsy ghost, such like an evocative image, and so much of the album, like the way it sounds, it's so ambitious and like creepy and interesting. It makes me really want there to be like some sort of rich conceptual undertones. But honestly, whenever I try to like conceptualize this album, it feels like I'm kind of reaching. Like you take the Kitsy Ghost track, for example, which is just awesome, like Cuddy just mumbling, Spirit moving around, Kitsy Ghost sometimes. Like, and it's so haunting. It sounds like a Luigi Mansion beat or something. It's crazy. But you actually sit down and read the lyrics, and it's Kanye saying shit like, "I like breakfast in bed, but I like breakfast in head," and it's like,
why does he do this to
yeah,
us?
literally, please expand on the concept. Talk about like use imagery that's evocative, anything that would just make this feel like the kind of perfect concept I might want it to be. Like have some gothic imagery in your raps. Do something. Like please. But sonically this is like one of the most entertaining, fun, rich albums to listen to.
I really
Of recent Kanye.
I really want to just a really quick detail off of what you said. Before I listened to this album, I kind of like I love the album cover. Who doesn't? It's beautiful. There's one detail I'm not that huge a fan of, but anyway.
What's the detail you're not a fan of?
The little character on the left is really ugly and out of place. I don't like it, and I never noticed it for like years. And then one day I noticed. I mean, it's only been 2 years since it was released, and then one day I noticed it, and I was like, I don't like that.
Is one of them are they meant to be Kanye and Cudi?
So this is what I wanted to talk about. I saw this album cover and like this Kids See Ghosts, and not only was it just a collab album, it is a new group. It is Kids See Ghosts, and you have these characters on the front, and I was like, oh man, one of them's Ye, one of them's Cudi, and it's going to be really like ambitious, and it's only 23 minutes, but I was really excited for this really weird character piece. You do have weird character moments because we're dealing with Kanye.
Yeah,
here,
there's lots of like From Software laughs to introduce and exit
yeah,
verses on this album.
Yeah, it's mental. But at the same time, I feel like there's not an intended meaning or experience that carries through every song on the album to be given to you at the end. I feel like this is an incredible selection of songs, with some exceptions, that ultimately does explore these ideas of Kanye being completely unhinged, and from the outside we know that's not okay, but on the inside he is empowered, and that is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to make it sound like it's not okay to be quote unquote unhinged, which is a term I think in real life I wouldn't call anyone unhinged. In like an artistic piece of work like this, like you could play, you could perform, you could do an unhinged performance, you know? Like I think obviously we hope Kanye's okay, is what we're saying basically. But some of the
Yeah,
most entertaining moments on this album is when he sounds aggravated and manic. Feel
yeah,
the Love is one of his euphoric tracks I've heard.
dude.
um, as is free, but we'll get onto those in the favorite tracks, I assume. Is there anything you'd like to say in summary of your feelings before we move on to the kind of favorite tracks part? Is there anything you'd like to say in summary of your feelings before we move on to our recommendations?
I think what's remarkable about this album is the person that we're dealing with here. We talked about identity in our year review and persona of Kanye albums, and this is such an evocative persona and such a fascinating persona. But this, in a weirdly less depressing way than Jesus is King, is insanely contrasting to a man from not many years ago. Jesus came out 5 years before this, and I really feel like that was a grounded persona we dealt with. While like, you know, that album's pretty crazy. Like he's really coherent and concise and articulate in that album, and we're just playing with such different beasts now. Unfortunately, it didn't go on to be something interesting. It went on to be Jesus is King, and that is so strange to me.
Yeah. Well, well, one thing I'd like to touch on this album is the song Reborn. And I think this is one of like the best moments in the album where it really gets closer to those themes that I was hoping for, and a direct confrontation of like, you know, the mental ailments that led them to make this album. I think in Reborn, I really love the kind of hypnotic motif, or sorry, the rather hypnotic refrain of Cuddy of "I'm so reborn, I'm moving forward, I keep moving forward," and like marching and progressing has been a real sonic motif in the album. Like I think the first two tracks have these real marching drums. It feels all about kind of leaving things behind you, and yeah, being reborn in that sense. And then Kanye gives one of his best verses in recent memory. I love the line, "I was off the chains, I was often drained, I was off the meds, I was called insane. What an awesome thing, engulfed in shame. I want all the rain, I want all the pain," which really encapsulates what you were saying earlier on about kind of embracing the darker aspects of like your mental health or your mental condition.
Yeah.
And saying, no, like I'm not crazy. Like this is what makes me me. Which is, yeah, very simple but very poetic and potent. And yeah, Cardi's first hero is wonderful as well. Especially knowing how he struggled with depression in his personal life. Seeing him speak so candidly about finding hope in a dark place is wonderful. With the line, "I had my issues, ain't much I could do, piece of something that starts with me." He sings it with almost like a childlike sense of kind of bright-eyed eagerness to just improve himself. And I feel like Cudi is really warm with this album and like really balances out the odious elements of Kanye's persona, which is what makes this duo work so well, whereas some of Kanye's solo work can be a bit overbearing at points.
Yeah, I really admire Cuddy on this album. He's such a great presence for it.
Anyway, let's move on to our recommendations. So
Zoom.
yeah, act natural, ladies. So yeah, I'll start this time. So I'll say my favorite tracks in order that they appear in the album. So first up is "Feel the Love." This is an amazing track, a great opener, a story I have that would encapsulate how amazing this track is I was in Oxford with my Oxford friends, and these are Oxford kids, right? So they're like refined, high art people, And one of my friends' boyfriends who was there, never misgender cis men, uh, he revealed that he's a huge Kanye fan, and we were just like both kind of geeking over Kanye, like because we both really like Kanye. And he was like, "Yeah, man, I love Kissy Ghost as well. Like, what do you think about that?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's a pretty good album." And then like we got all of the friends around, and they were talking about. I'm not even joking. One of them was literally like a classical music snob. Like this is not a joke. And I put on Feel the Love, and I like in a very like pompous way explained like notice the fine details, how Pusha T's verse is like it's quite laid back, subtle, and it's completely contrasted by Kanye's insane and like the moment when like Kanye started yelling, everyone in the room was actually shook, and it was like so potent and powerful. And that's this track moves you. Like honestly, this track is the most. It spiritually moved me more than anything on Jesus King did. This is evocative, gorgeous.
When he's yelling and then the drums kick in as well. Fuck, you feel it in your chest.
Genius. And another track that's like lightning in box, my second favorite track. As they show up, is Free Ghost Town Part 2, which is hands down one of the best Kanye and Cudi songs. It's just phenomenal. It's a psychedelic trip. It deals with with the themes of these albums. If I don't feel pain anymore. Everything about this track is utterly infectious. I wish this album dabbled more into this more psychedelic, trippy part of sonic production, because this is where the album shines the most, and this is where the themes of losing yourself and being overwhelmed by emotions is really best portrayed. And finally, Cudi Montage is an absolutely phenomenal track. It is so euphoric when that chorus of Stay Strong comes in after the gritty Kurt Cobain guitars strumming throughout the beginning of this track, and Kanye delivers one of his strongest verses in this past few years. He raps about crime in underprivileged areas and touches on unfair imprisonment of such communities. There are really cool lines here, such as the wordplay between peace, and dome piece, like peace as in gun, and it's just crazy. The evocative imagery of an auntie crying as she hears her child has gone and avenged her niece. And Kanye touching on how revolutionary potential in these underprivileged communities is routinely disrupted by pain and grief. With everybody wants world peace till your niece gets shot with a dome piece, in the dome piece. And he raps, you're caught in a rifle with the long reach, just another cycle of the lonely. Like, this is one of the most haunting Kanye verses of recent memory. And it's a gorgeous moment in the album. And again, Cudi as well. Him and Mr. Hudson and Kanye all coming together to sing Lord Shine Your Light on Me, Save Me Please. Again, is the most religious I felt in this period of Kanye. It's absolutely gorgeous. So amazing closer. I really adore it. And I just think this really bolsters the album up. My least favorite track is Fourth Dimension. I don't really have much negative to say about the song. I just think it's one of the more boring tracks of this album. It doesn't really feel like it's pushing things forward. I would like to highlight the line where Kanye says, "She says I'm in the wrong hole. I'm lost." I said, "Nuh-uh. This is a sexual assault. If you're having sex with someone in a way they don't want you to do it, and you keep going, that's bad. Don't do that, folks at home, ladies and gentlemen. Don't do that." So yeah, but other than that, I just thought this song was kind of boring overall. I like the What Is Santa Bringing sample. I think it's flipped really cool, but yeah, I could have done without this track, or with another psychedelic, more interesting track. Overall, I'd give this album a strong recommend. I really think it's a phenomenal work, and I would love to see this group make more music in the future, perhaps even an album longer than 20 minutes. How about you, Matty?
We have the exact same favorite tracks. I'll start off. I'll go in the opposite direction. Cudi Montage feels like it's creeping for the audience, waiting to discover it. It starts off so nonchalantly, like you said, while while Cuddy's sort of moanings over the guitar are quite haunting, it's so unreflective of what's to come. And when that chorus does come in, it feels like if this is a world of lost spirits who haven't found their place yet, that chorus feels like the light shining on these spirits as they find peace in the afterlife and they ascend.
I just wish that was what the actual album felt like.
I know. It's such a shame. It's
I love
such
how
a
you
shame.
described that conceptually. It's gorgeous.
Thank you. I think that this really is touching from Cuddy's perspective. I feel like he's the quiet underdog on this album, and so getting to hear him so tenderly sing away, sort of stay strong is really beautiful. And I really mean that. And then again, next is Free. Like, I think this is an essential Kanye song. I think this is one for the history books. It is hard to find things to say about the actual production because it's such an overwhelming experience. I think that it's strangely beautiful at points. I believed, again, Spotify has terrible features, so I'm sorry if this is wrong, but I believe it's Ty Dolla $ign singing the part where he says "Set me free." His voice sounds beautiful as they all harmonize together, and it really means that this song doesn't just feel like a shallow, like, fuck it, I'm gonna do anything. It feels like it's creating a world where you revel in the artistry of being insane, and I love it. Feel the love. What more is there to say? We've touched on Kanye using his voice as percussion, or as part of the instrumental in Yeezus on Black Skinhead, but this is another level. I talked about the drums coming in before, but when Kanye's voice comes in and is yelling, those are drums too. They might as well be. They are just as impactful and loud, and it's incredible. I just love hearing him go this wild. It's really gratifying. It's honestly an amazing moment. Finally, my least favorite song is Fire. This is a really terrible moment in sequencing for me. You don't have to go into the most energetic song in the world after the end of Feel the Love, but don't go into this. This is such a misstep for me. It's way too quiet, way too laid back, and I'll be honest, the sort of clanging beat doesn't really do anything for me, and I feel like Cuddy's croonings aren't as haunting as they are in other moments. So I'm not really a fan of this song or its place in the album. Overall, would I recommend it? Yeah, I would absolutely recommend this. This is Kanye. This is the most confident recommend I can give since Yeezus, where there is a sound, and it is not as explored as I would like it to be. Again, to touch on this album cover, it promises this shoegaze-esque world of pure sound that we get in moments but not consistently. But those moments are so beautiful and joyous that I cannot hesitate to recommend this album. And we're done.
Wonderful, we did it. We completed the Kanye retrospective. We're free. All right. So as we close this out, we've done it. We've reviewed, what is it, 10 Kanye albums?
I don't know anymore.
We reviewed 10 Kanye albums. So do you have your ranking ready?
You do yours and I'll sort it out.
Okay.
If you want.
Yeah, sure. So we talked about our ranking a little bit in the last episode. I'm just gonna say what my ranking is. Mattie will say what her ranking is, and then we'll have a brief kind of final thoughts on Kanye. So number 10, Jesus is King. Number 9, Graduation. Number 8, The Life of Pablo. Number 7, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Number 6, Yay. Number 5, Kids See Ghost. Number 4, 808s and Heartbreaks. Number 3, Yeezus. Number 2, The College Dropout. And number 1, my favorite Kanye West album, Late Registration.
Okay, I'm ready.
Cool. And what's your ranking?
10. Jesus is King. 9. Graduation. 8. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. 7. The Life of Pablo. 6. Yay. 5. Kids See Ghosts. 4. 808s and Heartbreaks. 3. The College Dropout. 2. Yeezus. And 1. My favorite Kanye West album, Late Registration.
Wonderful, yeah. There's nothing on that I'd really contest of too much. Like, I think we're basically in agreement. And like, this began as I wanted to give you a harsh induction into Kanye, so you can just move past this, get this over with before you hit 21.
I think that's good.
How did you find it overall? I mean, you've now heard every Kanye West album. You are officially a Kanye aficionado. So, I mean, how did it go?
It feels great. And it was thrilling. I think what Kanye's discography is I haven't touched on this particularly before, but it's an exemplar in how much you can vary and diversify in one single genre. Obviously, you have moments like 808s where he does kind of break the mold, but I feel like until Jesus is King, we're still seeing the same person, and that's really fascinating to me. And I think that is inherently tied to genre. I think he's still coming at music from the same way in all of these projects. And the moments where I like Kanye least are when I feel like he's betrayed that. I guess what people kind of want from an overall perspective on Kanye West is he a good man? Is he okay to like? Can you say you like Kanye? Can you say you love the old Kanye? And I don't really want to bother with those questions. I think the answer is he is a human being who happens to make music, and he has entered the public sphere with his statements, and that has affected his music. But at the end of the day, we can only consume his art and critique it in the way we can. It's not ultimately up for us or anyone to pass judgment on the finality with which we should take him as a human. I think like passing like one word statements on the quality of a human is a bit weird, but ultimately this is a discography worth exploring, maybe in a bit more than a couple of months or so, or however long we've been doing this. Time doesn't mean anything anymore, but work through it in order. It's thrilling and exciting, and you won't regret it.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement. I'm still a big Kanye fan. I don't really think out of the 10 albums we reviewed, I think the only generally bad one is Jesus is King, and at worst they were mediocre with amazing tracks sprinkled through. So I think this is a really rewarding discography to work through. Kanye is a very problematic person, of course, but and while there is also misogyny, you have to tread through. There is some gold as well and some really emotionally resonant moments. So hopefully from his religious experience, Kanye takes away some nice moral lessons, and hopefully he gets back to making interesting music soon. So yeah, that's it for the Kanye retrospective. Mattie, what are we doing next week?
So excitingly, we're doing another switcheroo episode, as we will be doing every 10 episodes.
Ooh la la.
Ooh. So what I wanted to do this time for my first retrospective music episode is take a dive into underground hip hop. Not too deep. These are still recognizable names because it's me. I'm Basic. Hi. So
this will be edited out for Mattie's self-esteem. Please like yourself, Mattie.
What? So LP's Fantastic Damage, which has just been put on streaming services.
That's dope. I'm super hyped for that. I didn't know that Fantastic Damage was put on streaming services. That's really exciting. I remember I actually searched for it on streaming services a few weeks ago and it wasn't there.
It's new then. It's
they got me again. They got me again. But I'm hyped.
I hope you're excited. Yeah,
Great
yeah.
episode. And thanks everyone for listening, for joining us on this journey.
Yeah, if you've heard every episode, like fucking, you're awesome. Well done.
And I want to close this out, with a Kanye quote. I'm gonna give me a sec. I'm gonna find a perfect Kanye quote.
This could either be like really good or absolute garbage.
We know we're late and we took all year, but you can stop complaining because the retrospective is finally here. And catch you next time. See ya.
When the wait, what was it?
Oh, say it again. I want to put this in the blooper reel. I want this to play after the credits. This is the after credits scene.
when the cuddy hum, I give big cum. All right, there we go. I did it. Retrospective over.